that's gonna loop. There we go. Okay. You just make sure that the audio is coming through the microphone and clearly. Sounds like it. Alright, a bit of a second's delay, but nothing crazy. Oh boy! Alright. Today is Pokemon Leaf Green. And obviously there's no one in chat right now, but if anyone were to, be watching this from the VOD and were questioning, well, didn't you already master Leaf Green? If any one of you is a person who knows me on my Retro Achievements account, yes, I have in fact mastered Leaf Green and the Professor Oak Challenge for Leaf Green. However, a few months back, there were updates made to the achievement list for Pokemon Leaf Green, which added a bunch of new achievements to the set. And although this doesn't take away the mastery icon for my account, it does leave a bit of a gaping hole in my, Leaf Green mastery thing right there. So today's focus is, going in and getting started on some cleanup for the game itself. Because I would like to say that I have the complete mastery of the game. I worked as hard as I did for the original one. I don't see why I can't do it this time. Especially because there's a lot of bulk that does get cut out of the process here, because they did maintain a lot of the previous achievements that were already listed on the achievement set, which I'm going to go and take a look at that real quick. Just give me 1 second. I'm drinking out of my Tostitos cup that I created. So yeah, like a lot of the, primary requirement achievements, defeating your rival in the first rival fight, getting gym badges, all sorts of stuff like that, completing the Pokedex. A lot of those achievements obviously remain completely the same, but now they've added new stuff, like getting the town map, getting the free potion, and they had a bunch of new missables, like defeating a bunch of trainers and getting all the items in a specific location, especially in missable locales, like certain trainers in Mount Moon, or the trainers on the SS Anne, like you have to get those ones, and if you don't, there's no way you're getting them back. But it's a lot of stuff like that, and this is actually, I think it's a really nice addition, because while this doesn't, force you to do a bunch of crazy stuff that you likewise wouldn't have done otherwise, what this does at least give you is it gives you a new sense of accomplishment to go through. It's stuff that isn't too far out of the way. Like, some of them can be a little tedious, finding both of the leftovers that you can find using the item finder. That's certainly something. Or the Soothe Bell in the Pokemon Tower. Like, there's item finder based achievements once you get the item finder. There's, showing a fish guru on Route 12, a Magikarp big enough to earn a reward. That one, obviously, is slightly more tedious. Apparently, a lot of people say that the Mount Moon fish is typically good enough. So, you know, like that's certainly something to look forward to. Hang on, give me... Take a quick picture there. Send it to my lady love. Alright. I need to think what I'm going to name my rival. I don't know. I think... Yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna go nice and simple. We're gonna go Gary, because I've been on a bit of a Pokemon anime kick lately. I haven't been watching it, but I've been, you know, seeing a lot of the stuff about it. And it's, you know, I'm just feeling very nostalgic for the good old days of Pokemon, not to, you know, hit the the most possible statement. You know, oh man, I remember the good old days of Pokemon when you watched the anime on Saturday mornings. Not to pause it. Gotta get that first potion. And before I do anything else, I am going to be changing this text speed to fast. Let's go this frame. Let's go this frame for this playthrough. I'm holding the B button as if I have the run button. I've been playing a lot of Pokemon hacks that just give you running by default. So it is a bit jarring to not just have the running shoes accessible. Alright. I am going to fast forward a little bit here just because it's all pretty tedious. Alright, so, playing Pokemon Leaf Green, you have 3 choices ahead of you. Obviously, you know, you've got your Bulbasaur. That's the face of the entire box art. Genuinely, I would think the most versatile starter for this type of playthrough. You know, you're playing through the main game. Your first gym badges, you have the advantage over. You have type resistance for the 3rd gym badge. You have type resistance and neutrality completely from the 4th badge. The 5th badge is one that might give you difficulty, given the type advantage of Psychic over Poison, but then you go over to the 6th badge and you have Poison again, so you're neutral. You go over to the 7th badge, there you've got trouble again with Fire, but then you go to the 8th badge and it's Ground. And then, like, I don't know, they make it so that Bulbasaur is definitely the best choice, and I will stand by it, that Bulbasaur is, like, if you're looking pure stats, move pool, accessibility, what it can do, Bulbasaur is your best option for a Kanto playthrough. It does the best amount of damage possible, it has the most super effective niches, it's got coverage moves that allow it to, you know, hit certain types in a certain way, and plus you've got your statusing, which is also very important. Then you have Squirtle. Squirtle, I feel, is also a fairly solid pick. It's your pretty middle of the road in terms of, like, what it can do. It has fewer advantages over gym badges, like outright advantages or otherwise, like resistances, but at the same time, it has a decent move pool. Its attacking stats are pretty solid. And it, you know, it can learn pretty cool abilities. Obviously, it's got your water coverage, but it can also get Ice Beam. I believe you can get Crunch on Squirtle, if I'm not mistaken. Skull Bash is a fantastic move. You have a lot of choices here. And then there is Charmander, who objectively is the worst choice you can pick. You are weak to the first 2 gyms, and by the time the 3rd gym comes around, you know, you're gonna have to rely on another Pokemon to help you primarily with the fighting. 4th gym comes around, hey, congratulations, you have the first advantage come Gym 5. And it's from Gym 5 on that you don't have any outright advantage over any of the gym leaders ever again. Outside of Giovanni, and that's only because he can't hit you with ground-type moves to hit you super effective with his ground-type Pokemon, so he doesn't get stabbed. But I think some of his Pokemon still have Rock-type moves, which is, you're 4 times weak to that. And then you're right on to Lorelei, who uses Ice-type moves and Water-type moves, so you're kind of scuffed, you know? And then Bruno also has Rock-types. Basically what I'm saying is Charmander is objectively the worst starter in all of Kanto. I think Charizard's cool. I grew up in the early 2000s, so, you know, I experienced the birth of Charizard hype for my generation. You know, the millennials had their 90s Pokemania Charizard hype. but, you know, I got to go through the Pokemon anime hyping up Ash's Charizard, and then Charizard's existence just being, like, an event. So, you know, I can respect Charizard enough. I don't think it needs to be shoved down our throats as much. Like, it is basically an additional mascot to the Pokemon franchise at this point, especially with the Megas and the Gigantamax form. All we're missing is a regional and, like, a Paradox, and we would have everything for Charizard, unless, of course, we get new forms in the next generation of Pokemon, and Charizard gets one of them, because, I mean, you know, it would. No, I'm not going to be picking Charmander, obviously. I have my biases against it, and I picked Bulbasaur, both for the original playthrough that I did of this in my personal time to get the mastery, but also in the Professor Oak's challenge, Bulbasaur in the personal playthrough, because, I mean, it's my personal go-to favorite pick of the generation, and it's got the most accessibility in terms of taking care of your opponents. But on top of that, in the Professor Oak's challenge, it is legitimately just your best choice, because it evolves at a lower level than both Blastoise and Charizard do for the final forms. They're at 36, whereas Venusaur is at 32. You get it much earlier, and it's a lot faster for the Professor Oak challenge, considering, you know, you're trying to get a level 32 Venusaur before you even so much as fight Brock. It's pretty nuts. So, we're going to be going with Squirtle, because I am also a big Squirtle fan, and I wanted to do something different than my previous playthrough. So we will be going with Squirtle, and I am not sure what I want to name the Squirtle. Let's see. What would be a good name for a Squirtle? You know what? I am going to do Mario-themed names for the Pokemon that I capture. And because I don't have to capture everything, I can just capture whatever the fuck I want. It's great. It's not like the Professor Oak Challenge where I need to capture things. I'm going to capture the things that I want to and just play this like a Pokemon game. It's been a while since I've been able to do that. Alright. Shush. Zhush. Let me. Speed tie. Interesting. Okay. Yep. We are... we don't have to kill him, okay. So, right off the bat, we are going to... Oh, well, okay, I stand corrected. Right off the bat, we're going to get into our first wild encounter with a Rattata. No, right off the bat, we are going to encounter our first new achievement of the run, which is right here, getting this potion from this NPC, I believe. Yes, there it is. Wow. Oh, this feels good. This does really feel good to be back on really familiar territory. And we also just got Bubble for the first time. Bubble is not the most exciting water-type move, but you know what? It gives us stab coverage damage. And it also has a chance to lower the speed of the opposing Pokemon, which is also something to look forward to, I think. We are just going to get a quick heal in. This is all pretty standard fare stuff. If you played Pokemon before, if you played this generation, you know what you're doing here. Nothing in this house. I'm thinking of the trainer school in Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, where you can get the Quick Claw from the teacher. We're not going to level up too much. We are going to get our Pokedex here after delivering the parcel. And then Gary's going to tell us to fuck off, because, you know, of course he will. And we're going to get our town map from his sister. Thank you, Daisy. Thank you, very cool. Alright, give me 1 second to respond to a message. Okay. So... look at locked achievements only. Alright, it's looking like my next mission that I have to go, or do going forward, is defeat the trainer in the Pewter City Gym. surprised that I'm not seeing... that you need to defeat all the trainers in the Viridian Forest. I figured that would be one. Unless it was one in the original set? I don't think it was, though. No. Huh. Alright, well, it looks like our next goal moving forward, then, is to go and defeat every single trainer in Pewter Gym. So we're just going to play the game as normal here. Try and just make our way. We are going to be skipping those guys there. Get a potion. Because I want... There we go. I would like a Spearow. Spearow is absolutely my favorite Pokemon in terms of, like, the flying birds that you get in Generation 1. It's Spearow, then, well, Fearow, Dodrio, and then I like Pidgeot after that. I feel like Pidgeot's just kind of overrated, personally. And we are naming after Pokemon, not Pokemon, Mario characters. What would be a good... Ooh, you know what? I'm gonna do Klepto. I know you're not really a vulture, but it is as close as I can get in this game. Okay. But yeah, so I kind of feel like Pidgeot's gotten a little overrated, and, you know, I think Fearow is just better stat-wise, you know? It's got that nicer attack stat. It might be a little bit slower, but it makes up for that in more interesting moves. It gets access to Drill Peck, which Pidgeot does not get in this generation. Oh, I don't really think Pidgeot gets much at all. I'd have to fact-check that, but I'm not going to. Pardon me. Mildly parched. Yeah, you know, I'm not the biggest Pidgeot fan. I think it's a fine enough Pokemon, but, you know, otherwise I would rather a Fearow if I had to pick. And then even then I'd pick Dodrio too, because Dodrio is pretty cool. We're also going to get a Mankey here, which, let me see, I just want to make sure I'm spelling this right. Ukiki, that's what it is. We are naming the monkey Ukiki after that annoying monkey in Mario 64 that steals your hat. Okay. Speaking of hats... I tell myself that I'm gonna wear it when I stream. My King of the Pirates Monkey D. Luffy hat. Alright. Let's see. I am going to point out the other Pokemon as we go. Obviously, I mentioned Pidgey. Pidgey's, I mean, a decent enough Pokemon. It is the original recipe early route bird Pokemon. You know, you're certainly going to experience better Pokemon, not only in the Kanto region, but just through the generations as they go on. Mega Pidgeot certainly has its niche, but it's definitely still underwhelming in comparison to other options that you have. And then Rattata, of course. Rattata is the other blueprint. It's the early route, kind of like companion, normal-type Pokemon. Sometimes it's a rodent, sometimes it's just a small creature. Obviously, you've got, like, the Lillipup line, which is pure normal, but it's dog, versus, you know, a rat, or the Sentret line for, you know, ferrets and whatnot. You know, these are all the Pokemon you've kind of come to expect. They, like I said, they're the blueprint. They're what you know. They're what's familiar. Obviously, everyone calls, you know, they look for those kind of tropes in the new generation. Alright, who's going to be Gen 10's Rattata? Who's going to be Gen 10's Pidgey? You know, I'm sure there's later generations that have their different views on it. I'm sure there's some people who are probably a little bit younger than me, not by much, but a little bit younger, who would probably be like, oh, like, what is this generation's Starly gonna be like? Since, you know, there's the big boom of Pokemon fans that kind of blew up after Gen 4 came out. That whole younger part of Gen Z, which I am begrudgingly a part of, has their, you know, their attachments to Gen 4. And, I mean, I can respect Gen 4. It was definitely a really fun time in the Pokemon franchise. There was a lot of really cool Pokemon introduced, obviously. Lucario, you've got Electivire, who's just badass, Luxray, Floatzel, Dialga and Palkia are both sick as hell. Giratina, especially in the origin form, Arceus, Darkrai. Obviously, I'm mentioning a lot of legendaries, but there's a lot of cool stuff. Garchomp. A lot of cool stuff from Gen 4. Obviously, some forgettable stinkers like Lumineon. But, hey, you know, not every Pokemon generation is going to be full of winners. I mean, even Gen 1's got its issues. Look, it's a ball. Look, now it's 3 balls. Like, it's a pile of sludge that turns into a bigger pile of sludge. And I'm not knocking on these Pokemon in any way. I'm just pointing out the bit of the logical fallacy that gets pushed around, that Pokemon designs are unoriginal, they're just a bunch of objects now, but, like, they've always been objects. That is what was, what is, and what likely will be when it comes to the Pokemon franchise. It's not new. We were dealing with one thing becoming 3 things forever. And people want to point out, like, oh, well, I mean, like, Magnemite's an outlier. They don't really do that type of thing anymore. But, like, Beldum becomes multiple. Multiple come together. That's Metang, and then Metang come together, and that becomes Metagross. Like, Hydreigon is a 3-headed dragon. I know it's not multiple things coming together, but that's still similar. Phalanx, just a bunch of guys. Tandemaus and Mousehold, like, there's a clear blueprint here. It is being followed, and acting like Pokemon is only doing that now is such a dumb take. It's so dumb. I don't need to keep training anymore. I don't know why I am. I am going to start this rival fight, which is not necessary. I got the achievement for it already. But what this is gonna at least do for me is get me some... Oh, fuck. I was gonna say get me some additional experience, but that did not work out the way I had hoped for. Alright. Well... I'm gonna have to come back, I believe, at a later point, I know there's no barrier here, to talk to that guy, so I can get, what is it, the Snore? Rest TM? Something like that? I get the TGTV, that's, I think he gives me a key item, which is important now. To get all the key items. No? Okay. I'll have to come back through here when I have cut. Thank you. Open the good old strategy wiki. Do it like this. Nope. It is right here. Boy, knock it off. Okay. Anyways, here in the Viridian Forest, sorry, I know I'm kind of not talking. Here in the Viridian Forest, we obviously have the introduction to a lot of the bug-type Pokemon that you're going to come to know, as, like, also more blueprint Pokemon. You've got your Caterpie and your Weedle. Bug types were brought in this part of the game to kind of introduce the concept of evolution, as the bug-type Pokemon that you encounter, Caterpie and Weedle, they have really low evolution levels. I believe it's level 6 or so for the evolution from their base form into their middle stage, Kakuna or Metapod, depending on which one you've got. And then it's level 10 for when they become Butterfree and Beedrill, which, you know, that's your first experience to a final evolution in a Pokemon game. They are not the strongest Pokemon you're ever going to get, and they do get outpaced fairly quickly as you progress, but they are a nice little exposure to, like, what it's like to have a Pokemon with higher stats. You know, you get to see them moving a bit faster, hitting a bit harder, and while they don't supply much of an advantage over the next gym, as Brock is a rock-type gym, and so he does have super effective damage against your bugs, it is still something that you have access to. And, you know, if you're able to set it up right, Butterfree is able to take on Brock at least semi-okay, being that Butterfree gains access to Confusion, which, you know, does absolutely obliterate the special defense, or lack thereof, on Brock's Pokemon, being a Geodude and Onix. Onix has absolutely despicable special defense stats. So, you know, it's good to take advantage if that's what you want to do. I know people like to do their bug-only playthroughs. I've certainly tried them myself as a certified bug catcher. Bug types are my absolute favorite, even if they do kind of, you know, lack any real oomph sometimes. That's okay. Did I fight this one up here? Ah, fuck you. Yeah, I did. Alright, well that is every trainer in this early part. Okay, I got the potion. So there is one more thing that I have to get. So it looks like Viridian Forest is an achievement, but I didn't see it on the achievement list. So now I'm just kind of confused. Forest clearing. Yeah, that's so weird. I must have missed it when I was scrolling through. Alright, well, there it is. We got our Viridian Forest achievement for clearing out everything. Alright, well, now we're in Pewter City. I think our best course of action, first of all, is to there's a Pokeball hidden up here in the light grass as it's... There we go. We are just gonna run on through. You know, we're just gonna run on through. Because it's really not gonna be all too difficult. I just realized I named this guy Bowser's. Why did I do that? Why? Alrighty. Well, we'll fix that at a later date, I guess. Alright, we got our TM from Brock. So that was a quick little cleanup. Well, we got 4 achievements already in our short little run through. Let's see. The time here. It's saying 1 hour and 47. I know damn well that's not how long I've been streaming for. Been streaming for 31 minutes so far. Not too bad, not too bad. What's that mean now? Well, I guess next up, we get the running shoes here, which is going to be very nice to have. But next up is going to be making our way towards Mount Moon. We're gonna, do our very best to get through that fun little dungeon. And I think now is a good opportunity to switch train Ukiki here. Yeah. Okay. Alright. Making some progress. We want to be able to use Ukiki as we go through the cave, so that way Ukiki can also get into some fights with the local populace. And we got poisoned. Our first exposure to a status ailment in this playthrough is the poison status. Obviously, for anyone who's played Pokemon, you're pretty familiar with it, but I think I'll run through it as I'm going through, because why not make this a bit more informative? Something to clip down the line if I ever decide to make, shorts for my content. Basically, poison status is going to afflict your Pokemon in a way where you're taking chip damage every single turn. There are 2 specific types of poison. There is the regular poison damage, and then there is the badly poisoned effect. Where in the regular poisoning, it is a set amount of fixed damage that is taken based on your health. It's percentage based. Your badly poisoned condition, what that will cause instead is going to be a over time increase in the damage. So it'll start off at a base level, and then every single turn after you've been poisoned, it is only going to get worse and worse. So you want to be able to kind of like keep an eye on that and manage it, so that way you don't end up losing your Pokemon unnecessarily, because it is entirely possible. Wow, this is rough. Not what I was expecting. Obviously, I'm thinking kind of in Nuzlocke rules right there with the losing your Pokemon. You don't lose your Pokemon. But when you're in a fight, it's best to manage that. If you're not restricting yourself from using items, obviously stock up on antidotes. Make sure that you have, if it's in the right generation, Pecha Berries are available to you. Always good to keep your eyes peeled for stuff like that. Righty. Now coming up here, we're going to be coming up on the first grass patch for this route. We are going to see what we have available to us. We get a couple new encounters, one of which will be joining us once I get it. So let us see. We also have this trainer, Miss Eek, Did You Touch Me? we are going to switch out here. Because Jigglypuff can be an absolute menace. Alright, no, it is not Pidgey. We don't want Pidgey. Or Spearow. We also definitely don't want Jigglypuff. Not to say that Jigglypuff is an inherently bad Pokemon, but it is certainly further from good than it is, you know. So, you know, let's try... I feel like I remember there being secret items. Give me one moment. Okay, so there's no hidden item over here, but there is the Persianberry that comes up in a little bit. It is not Nidoran female that we are looking for, but I will take a moment to talk about the Nidoran species. So in the original generation, there was no genders in Pokemon. Those weren't established as a feature until Generation 2 when they introduced the breeding mechanic. So in Gen 1, they wanted to show a bit of gender dimorphism in the Pokemon world, and they decided to do that by introducing the Nidoran line, where there is a male and a female variant. They put it so that the male and female symbols were located in the actual name of the Pokemon, so that way you would be able to, you know, tell the difference. Obviously, there's some other differences. Nidoran male is a bit pointier and is purple in color with larger ears, whereas Nidoran female is a bit smaller in size with less spikes and a light blue in coloration. They both exhibit a similar niche. They are part of Jigglypuff's also a little lump in there, and then another Pokemon who we'll encounter in Mount Moon once we get there, who are a new style of evolution, where we were first introduced to evolution via level up through the bug-type Pokemon. We were introduced to evolution by stones through these new Pokemon that we get to encounter on this route and the following dungeon. Stone evolutions are a really neat little thing, where from any level a Pokemon is at, you're able to evolve it using said stone. There are a few different types of stones. In the early generation, you're listed as only having 4, which are your Firestone, your Waterstone, your Thunderstone, and your Moonstone. They all evolve very specific type of Pokemon, or types of Pokemon rather, and they don't have any restrictions on when you can evolve it. So, say for instance, you get a Growlithe from an egg. Growlithe is one of the Pokemon that evolves with a Firestone. So, you would take that Firestone on a level 1 Growlithe, and now all of a sudden you have a level 1 Arcanine. It's not going to be very efficient, as it does not learn any moves, as that is the trade-off with Stone Evos, where a regular Pokemon will continue to learn moves up to a certain point via through level up. Stone Evos, they do not learn any moves via level up, at least not in this generation of Pokemon. Later generations have added a couple level up moves via level up moves for Stone evolution Pokemon. However, for the most part, the earlier gens did not include anything. So say, you know, you got the Eevee, you get the gift Eevee from this game, and you want to evolve it immediately, you want to get your Vaporeon or your Jolteon or whatever the hell you want, and you go to evolve it. It's not going to learn anything, though. So it's not like, oh, you're immediately... I think, like, you get one move upon evolution for those specific Pokemon. So it's like, I think Jolteon learns, like, Thundershock, and Vaporeon learns Water Gun, and Flareon learns Ember, I think. I might be wrong, but that's my recollection of it. Outside of that, like, you're not going to get any new moves that you can't give them, or that you can't get otherwise. Like, you have to do TMs. It's what I'm trying to say. Jesus, I am talking in circles right now. This is terrible. But yeah, so you have to, you know, give them your TMs or your HMs. With the HMs, it's not too big of a deal. You know, getting Surf on Vaporeon is probably its best damaging option, obviously. But, you know, if you want to teach your Flareon Flamethrower, which, by the way, is already a stupid idea because Flareon stats are distributed as a physical attacker, which means using any fire-type moves in Gen 3 is basically a false attempt at any kind of success, as fire was designated a special type, meaning that Flareon was using special moves on its physical attacking stat, and it just does not work. Anyways, rant aside, you would be wasting your precious TMs that, with the exception of a couple specific TMs, are a finite resource. You do not have an unlimited number of TMs at your advantage, and because of that, you know, you are unfortunately locked into a certain form of decision-making there, where you have to decide, you know, do I want to spend this resource here? Do I want to spend it there? Do I want to save it until I think that I've found the best possible option after scouring through everything? Do I use it on this specific Pokemon, even though I might be able to find one with a better, more beneficial nature? You know, it's... when you start getting too deep into the mechanics of it, you start to lose sight of it a little bit, I will say. The importance of everything. That being said, I will point out that, you know, either way, they're still good Pokemon, the Stone Evos. Some of them definitely better than others, but for the most part, you're looking at a lineup of fairly solid Pokemon that are another set of easier to level up and evolve Pokemon that give you a stronger option going in. So, for example, the Nidoran line, they evolve, I think, around level 16 into their middle stage, which is Nidorino and Nidorina, respectively, for the male and female variants. And then when you give them a Moonstone, which you'll be able to encounter in the upcoming dungeon Mount Moon, you'll be able to evolve them into Nidoking and Nidoqueen, respectively. They are absolute powerhouses for this early in the game. They are poison types that then gain the ground type upon their final evolution. They do a massive, I mean massive, absurd amount of damage to Pokemon, so much so that Nidoking is actually the top pick for the speedrun used Pokemon when you're running Generation 1 Pokemon, very specifically, you know, Red and Blue. Very commonly, they use Nidoking. It is a very fun, fascinating experience to learn that stuff. Sorry, I had to respond to a message. Alright. But yeah, so that's why we are looking for our Nidoran male. Both Nidoran male and female are perfectly viable choices. I think as the generations do pass on a little bit, I think Nidoqueen is built more specially, whereas Nidoking is built more physically. So they kind of fill in similar but different niches in their own respective categories. That being said, you know, there obviously are better Pokemon than the Nidoking and Nidoqueen line, especially in these days with all the new abilities and move pools that have been spread out. That being said, like in Gen 3, playing through Fire Red and Leaf Green, Nidoking and Nidoqueen are still both very, very viable Pokemon, though Nidoking is the better of the two, as this was before the physical special split, so this was before Nidoqueen was able to take advantage of specially based ground type moves, whereas Nidoking, you know, reigns supreme. You've got your Earthquake, you've got, you know, well, you've got Earthquake, really, is the point I'm trying to make. Earthquake is a physical attacking move, 100 accuracy, always going to hit, and you're throwing it on a Pokemon that deals stab damage with it, and has an incredibly high attacking stat. You know, you're pretty much locked in for a good time with that one. I'm not gonna run around here forever. If I don't find Nidoran male, I will happily move on to the next spot, just because, you know, I don't want to spend my entire time on stream looking for a, what, I think like a 1% encounter on the route. Not necessary for me to do. This is not the Professor Oak challenge, so I don't like need it. There are other Pokemon that I would more than happily throw on my team that I'll be able to get later. I just would prefer it to be Nidoran male. few more encounters, and then I'm going to stop attempting to get them. Come on. Yeah, it's right up here. Persianberry. Now we can heal. We're going to do the ever-important purchasing of a Magikarp. And we're going to do Mario Fish. Of course, we are going to name you Cheep Cheep. The 20 Poké-Dollar con. Alright, sure. And here we have Mount Moon. Mount Moon is going to be the second instance of a dungeon in the Pokemon franchise. Obviously, you've got the Viridian Forest, which is your first instance of a dungeon experience. However, this one is the more typical structure of a dungeon in a video game, where you've got your multiple levels with unique encounters all throughout, hidden items. It's pretty interesting. It definitely follows the more standard traditional experience of a JRPG dungeon, which you would probably find in your Final Fantasies or your Dragon Quest, things like that. It is not so entirely massive that it's easy to get lost, but it is big enough where, you've got plenty of little nooks and crannies to explore through. So it's always good to, take your time in locations like this in the Pokemon franchise, especially when you're, doing something like I am, where you're trying to meet an arbitrary criteria of getting every possible thing done in a video game. I don't need to, I just want to. In here you'll find a neat variety of trainers and their Pokemon. You've got bug catchers from the previous routes. They're always kind of going to be around, but you'll see them less and less as we progress. And then you've also got, some lasses as well. Like I said, these early... I don't know why I sent out the... Alright, dumbass. You'll see less and less of some of the weaker trainer classes as we progress, because they represent, the beginning of your journey. Right here, we're starting to hit our stride, so while we are still seeing, our youngsters and our lasses, we are also going to see some new trainer types. Youngsters, lasses, bug catchers. We're going to see the hikers. We're going to see, obviously, we just encountered a super nerd. And then there is going to be another important type of trainer class that we are going to be encountering here in the cave as well. While we are... Just give me 1 second while we're exploring. I'm going to go over some stuff. So, yeah, we're going to go over the encounters now. Oh, my goodness. There are a handful of new encounters that we get here in Mount Moon. The first one, the one we have seen quite a fair bit of, is Zubat. Zubat is a flying poison type who is actually going to be a nice little segue for the next type of evolution that gets explored. But in this specific instance, it doesn't get explored until a fair bit into your time playing Fire Red and Leaf Green. So Zubat is a case of a Pokemon who was introduced in Generation 1, who does evolve, but gained a new evolution later on. In Generation 1, Zubat, after reaching a certain level, I believe it's level 20 through 20, I think it's maybe 26, maybe? I'm not sure exactly. It's been a long time since I've done my Professor Oak challenge, so I'm not as caught up on the Leaf Green levels as I would like to be. But once Zubat evolves into Golbat, that was it in Generation 1. That's its final form. It's a fairly decent flying type that also gains access to poison-type moves. It's fairly unique in how it is put together, but, it's solid, it's fast, that helps. However, in Generation 2, they introduced the Pokemon Crobat, which is the final evolution of the Zubat line, and it is an evolution that happens through friendship. Friendship is a mechanic that was introduced into Generation... Well, I believe it might also still be in Generation 1, but it's a mechanic in the Pokemon franchise that determines how much your Pokemon likes you. You don't always see the effects of it in the earlier games unless your Pokemon really, really dislikes you, or if your Pokemon was traded to you. This comes in the form of Pokemon disobeying your commands and doing the opposite of what you said. You know, it'll use a random move, it'll fall asleep, it'll just sit there and not do anything. There's multiple different, you know, outcomes to a Pokemon having a low friendship. A high friendship, however, was used to allow certain Pokemon to evolve. The friendship evolution was introduced as a means to make that accomplished, and so you've got a couple friendship evos, but the one we're talking about here is Crobat, who is the friendship evo for Golbat, and ever since Gen 2, it has existed as a Pokemon that your Golbats can evolve into if you have one. However, in the Gen 3 remakes of Pokemon's Red and Blue, Fire Red and Leaf Green, or I guess Red and Green technically, if you get a Golbat, it is impossible for it to evolve into a Crobat, even when hitting max friendship, until you've beaten the main story of the game and access the post-game. Only then will friendship evos work. They coded it in the game that way, so that when your Pokemon is ready to evolve, it will start the evolution process, and then it'll say, it stopped for some reason, you know, and something along those lines. And that was how they circumvented you having anything that wasn't Gen 1 explicitly in the main game of Pokemon's Fire Red and Leaf Green. I don't know why they chose to do it that way. I guess some kind of like preservationism of the original image, but you know, they did not follow that message through into Heart Gold and Soul Silver when they re-brought back another region, and this time, you know, they allowed you to get Pokemon that evolved into something that didn't exist in Gen 2 into that Pokemon. You know, your Yanma can become a Yanmega, your Tangela can become a Tangrowth. They didn't hold you back from experiencing these evolutions if you had the means to do so, which I do genuinely appreciate them doing that way. Let me see here. We also encountered another Pokemon back there, Clefairy. That was one of the other Stone Evos. But what we're going to talk about here is Team Rocket. Team Rocket is the evil team for Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green. They were the first. They were the originals. They are the blueprint for every other villain team that you encounter in this franchise. They definitely hold their place in, you know, the franchise's history. They're iconic. They were the main villains of the anime for a large portion of time. And they will forever kind of hold that spot of importance in Pokemon fans' eyes. In this instance, you know, they're introduced as a force that is terrorizing the people of the cave that have been, you know, making their way through. It's a through point from Pewter to Cerulean, so obviously people are going to be spending a lot of time trying to navigate through here. And they are going to be bombarded by Team Rocket in here, who are looking for something. You don't quite know exactly what it is they're looking for until you make it to the end of the cave, but, you know, you will eventually find out what that is. Alright. Someone's getting blown up right now. I don't need to keep switch training this thing. I don't know why I'm still doing it. One. Yeah, as we navigate our way through, we're going to start getting everything. What was I going to say? We should be able to get everything pretty easily. Oh my god. This is horrible. Thank you. It's not hard to just hit the damn thing. here we got a secret item. Here we got this. We also encountered a Paras. Paras is another instance of a bug-type Pokemon. It's the first one outside of the generic 2 that we first encountered in the Viridian Forest. They are garbage. Paras is a bad Pokemon that evolves into another bad Pokemon. They're a grass bug-type line, which means they have one of the weakest defensive typings in Pokemon history. They're 4 times weak to rock. I mean, not rock. They're 4 times weak to fire. They are weak to ice. They're weak to flying. They are weak to rock. It's not great for the bug type, who is a bug grass type, and unfortunately it's going to take another 5 generations after Gen 2 or Gen 1, or another 4 generations after Gen 1 for them to get their shit together and make a good bug grass type. But yeah, Paras is not great, and it's a shame too, because Paras also has what is probably legitimately one of the best moves in the entire franchise in Spore, which is it is a status move that puts your opponent's Pokemon to sleep. However, the way Spore does it is the only one that is 100% accurate. It is the only one that is never, ever going to miss. And only Paras learns it. Not its evolution Parasect, Paras. So you have to wait to evolve one of the frailest Pokemon in history just so you can guarantee you get one of the best status-inflicting moves of all time on a Pokemon whose stats are so bad you can't even really properly utilize it without it just not being worth it. Like, I don't know. It is a mystery why they chose to do Spore the way they did Spore. Okay. We are almost done with the cave here. Oh, poison gas. Of course we get poison gassed. Gotta love it. Not too love yet. Now he sends out his coughing. We are just gonna say fuck it and scratch. Oh, Squirtle is evolving. Alright, we got our first evolution of the stream. Very nice, very nice. We are going to do that, this. That is unfortunate. We'll revive it if necessary. Of course we're going to take the Helix Fossil. Alright, so it looks like I missed one thing. I missed one singular item, so we are going to figure out what that may be. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Silly me. Don't mind the fool. Alright. Yeah, I cannot leave the cave until I get every single item. So I need to be meticulous about this. So it's probably right here. It says I don't have to get the mushrooms. Very specifically, the achievement does not list anything about the mushrooms. In fact, we are going to go and... It's gotta be listed here somewhere. Oh, that's right. I'm an idiot. I am so dumb. Do I? No, I don't. Okay. We're just gonna power through this. We're gonna power through this because I forgot about the antidote at the end of the fucking cave. Oh, man. Leave me alone. You are unwanted. I was really hoping the key item would be what I mean. Yeah, I'm such a dumbass. It's right here. Over the moon. Okay. I do not want to teach Mega Kick to one of my Pokemon, but I do want to teach Mega Punch to Ukiki. He will be getting rid of Scratch. Well, actually, I should teach Mega Kick. I'm going to teach the Bowsers. See, I have to do it. Look at that. It has to happen. Even though I didn't want to. What exactly is that achievement that keeps updating? There has to be a specific hidden item achievement that I am not paying attention to. I have to defeat every trainer and find every item on routes 2, 3, and 4, and Viridian City, Pewter, and Cerulean City. Wow. So I can't finish this achievement until I can come back with Surf later, because I have to talk to her, that's Chrissy. So that is an out of the question, impossible cheevo for the time being. But But we do have some more achievements that are coming up there. We are just going to quick cut through here. Get the rare candy. Okay. Yeah, we're not able to complete that achievement yet. That's okay. We are going to want to do our rival fight here. Forgot he leads with a Pidgeotto. I'm an idiot. Heal real quick. I know Vine Whip's not going to do enough to Oko. Abra will switch back out to Bowser's. Yeah. And Rattata Ukiki can clean up. Awesome. Okay. Now I got the Fame Checker. In just a moment, we're going to be able to go up to that part of the route. Alright, let's go. We're going to do Nugget Bridge. We are not going to do the Nugget Bridge exploit. I talked about it not too long ago when I did my, my first stream of DBZ. Was it my first or my second stream of DBZ team training? I think it was my first stream for team training. But I talked about it then, so I'm not doing it here, as funny as it would be. I also, now that I'm thinking about it, need to deposit Cheep Cheep in the box. Because I'm not going to be using Cheep Cheep. Cheep Cheep is not going to be a teammate for this playthrough. I'm so sorry for anyone who ends up watching this who really was on Team Cheep Cheep here. It's not this stream. I apologize. No Gyarados here. That's crazy, it does that much damage. Alright, and you know what? We've made it this far into the game. We are going to do our first experience of actually shopping here in the Pokemon world. First, we are going to sell this star piece, get some quick money. As you can see, you have quite a few options available to you. It's best to stock up on certain items so that way you don't find yourself running out too quickly or having to deal with too much stress of needing to heal your Pokemon up. It's also good to stock up on Pokeballs. You don't want to run out. Unfortunately, like I said, DBZ team training as well, you don't have as much in terms of, you know, Pokemon or a Pokeball economy here, as you're not able to, you know, farm Premier Balls by spending 10 or buying 10 Pokeballs. That is not a thing they have in this game for some reason. Alright, back to the bridge. We are just going to keep making our way up. We're almost done. And it's Mankey v. Mankey. He took the wrong play. He opens with an Ekans, I know that much. Oh, if I zoo that. Oh, yeah, I can stay in. This thing doesn't have anything that can hit me super effective anyways. Alright. We got our free nugget. We're going to go back and heal up. Alright, we do have another item right here, as well as a berry right there. And then there is a trainer right here. This will be more progression for the Cerulean Cape achievement that we'll be able to get here. We are going to be looking for a specific Pokemon over here, and no, it is not Abra. unfortunately, you know, we're not able to evolve Kadabra into Alakazam in this game due to the nature of how I am playing. I don't have anyone to trade with, so I will not be doing any kind of manipulation to guarantee that I can get myself an Alakazam, as nice as it would be. Also, I think I'm in the wrong grass. I'm not in the wrong grass. We are, in fact, going to be catching a Bellsprout. We are going to have a Stone Evo on our team, as later we'll be able to evolve it into Victory Bell with a Grass Stone, or a Leaf Stone, rather. And you are going to be named Piranha Plant. Or Piranha Pea. That is our newest team member joining up the squad here. I am going to switch you to the front, so that way you can start getting some experience from our encounters here, which is good. Coming right up, we have a bunch of hiker trainer classes, which typically are going to have either Geodudes or, I was going to say, the Machop line. Whoa! That did way too much damage. Alright, I'm not going to be using any of the heals that I just bought for this. Unfortunately, you know, I want to try and preserve my resource as much as possible. Forgot to get this. Can't do anything with it, but I have it now. Oh my god. You're going to see me running back a lot, but I really do want to conserve resources because, you know, without doing the infinite money bug that is hard-coded into Fire Red and Leaf Green for some reason, I don't really have an assured way of, you know, building up an economy for myself here. So I'm going to do what I know is at least somewhat efficient here. Oh, fuck, yeah, alright. I forgot that could happen. Yeah, I'm gonna do, it might be a little bit slower, but I'm gonna do this just so I can conserve my items for, you know, more important things, boss fights and the like. Situations where my Pokemon get statused, but I'm far away from a center. Here we will switch into Bowser's just so we can use our specially damaging moves. Thankfully, a foe we can stay in on. This will be some good experience farming. Okay. Now, we want to make sure that we get this item now, otherwise we have to wait until after we defeat Misty and go through the SS Anne in order to get that one. Because it would be locked behind Cut. So it is very much a one-time deal with this specific item. If you want to at least get it in the first bit of the game here. We also have this berry spot. Piranha Pea, you can stay in, do your thing, wonderful. We got another berry. We'll switch to Bowser's. Awesome. Okay. Okay, now we can just do this, get our ticket for the SS Anne. or the Saint Anne if you're a fan of the Pokemon Indigo League anime. And now we can start making our way into here and take care of these trainers in Misty's gym. This will be our first exposure to the water-type specialist classes that you usually see on the swimming routes. You'll see your swimmers as well as a specific picnicker here, who is not common on those routes. I just was pointing out the picnicker obviously being a very common trainer class there, completely washed out. We are going to heal up here, and then we are going to do a little bit of exploring out, because we can't quite successfully fight Misty, in my opinion. You know, we want to be a bit of a higher level. Her Pokemon have the level advantage, and in certain instances they do have the typing advantage too. Misty does have access to her Starmie as her ace, which is an exceptionally strong Pokemon. And while it does not have any Psychic-type moves, it is still rather treacherous to try and deal with. We are just going to make our way down here, I believe. No, it's just the daycare service. I can't do anything with that. There's no berries. And we can't go through here yet. Alright, so our best option pretty much is to be grinding on the grass just before the route here on Route 25. And I'll have to find whatever items that I'm missing. I'm going about. Then we don't want to start sport. Pull some stuff up real quick. Route 4, we skip that, go to Cerulean City. Yeah, there's an elixir right there. And then a couple steps from the fence on the easternmost part of the route. There we go. And we got the Cape of Cerulean. Another good achievement. That's right, we were going to do just a touch of grinding. Actually, you know what I just realized I can do? Hang on. Bear with me here. I have an idea. It's going to take a little bit of traversal, but it's going to be worth it. That's not great. Whoops. Whoopsie daisy. Grr, come on. Stay in for this. We're gonna get rid of Tail Whip. Oh boy. Too close for comfort. Alright. We did that little bit of traversal, so we can get here, and we can get the BS Seeker. Very important item. While we're here, we might as well also go to the Pokemon Fan Club, talk to this dude, let him yap his ear off, get the bike voucher. Didn't want to give a... No, okay. And because I'll feel unaccomplished if I don't do that. Just take care of that real fast. Alright, we're just gonna bum rush it. Fuck it. Let's go fight Misty. Hit a growth real quick. Oh, fuck. Do I have any X items? No, I don't. Alright. Get another super potion. We survive on... Oh! Without crit, we survive on half. On a low roll. Let's go. That's what I want to see. And we've got our Weeping Bell. Awesome. Okay. We also got the TM4 Water Pulse, which is very good. Now let's get ourselves a bike from Rydell. Rydell's Gen 3's guy. Right? Something like that. I don't know. Okay, we can now make our way back to Viridian City. As much as I would like to cheese some pickup strats, I'm not going to focus too heavily on ever trying to touch pickup. Let's see. Whoa. You know what I should do? I should do the trades for the male Nidoran and Nidorino, because those are... Well, I can't do them yet. My bad. Forgot about that. I did not realize those were achievements in the set to complete the trades for those. I have to show a record-breaking Heracross down the line. That'll be fun. I do have to hit 777s. Really just looking through everything here. Huh, okay, so there's one for getting the fame checker filled out, which is definitely new. And I have to defeat the highest level teams for all rematchable trainers found in the VS Seeker. Oh. That's kinda neat. That'll be fun to come back to. You're a bug catcher, so you're gonna have flying types. Ooh, who'da thunk it? Flying types? Bug types. I said the wrong words. We're not gonna do pursuit. Gotta pad out my entries here. Let's go. This feels like there would be a secret item up here. I was so right. Sometimes you see it and it's so evident that's what it's gonna be. Give me your old rod. Stick some string and some glue to hold it together. That's what I'm here for, buddy. We are going to go on to the SSN and guarantee that we get everything. Oh, joy. Yeah, this is a very fun locale in the game because it is one of the few locales that, you know, like you'll have places that you can go back to, but things will be a little different. You know, there will be certain trainers that are no longer there due to them being story specific, but this is the only location in the entire game that just goes away completely and utterly. Like, you can never go back there for any reason. You know, it's very unique in that way. Poo pew. I don't know. I find it fascinating, at least. It's a certain level of uniqueness to the game itself. Brick Break is a phenomenal TM that we will be saving for as long as humanly possible. Oh, crap. Okay, as the secret police guy. Get my special berries. Great ball. Yeah, we want to make sure we check and talk to every possible person and thing that we even remotely can. It's important because this location has a lot of secret items. It has a lot of trainers that you can only fight the one time. And so, like, it's very important that you get the have these fights and find these items now. Because after this, like, that's it. While we're here, let's talk about this new trainer class that we've started encountering, which is the Sailor. The Sailor typically revolves themselves around other water-type Pokemon. However, you will see the occasional Machop line on there as well. They are representing a very strong and powerful, manly type, and so they kind of represent the harshness of the sea and the strength that requires you endure upon it. It's a very fascinating trainer archetype. I'm quite fond of it. Reminds me a lot of the beach right before Slateport City in Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Just all the experience that you get going around there. You're fighting the kids in the inner tubes, and you're fighting all the sailors using their Pokemon. It's iconic for me. As you can see here, we've got the example of the Machop line being used, representing the strength and endurance of a sailor, the hardiness, if you would. Yeah, that guy tells you about Snorlax. That's going to be your first ever exposure to Snorlax as a Pokemon, so it's cool to notice that. These gentlemen typically have, some of the more popular Pokemon, so you will see your Pikachus, your Growlithe. It's a lot of cutie-looking ones. Got our Stardust. You know what, while I am here, let's do a little bit of bag reorganization, because I am a sucker for an organized bag. Items here. Yeah, I'd say that is a decent mix-up there. We'll do Super Potion and a Paralyze Heal. Then we'll use another Ether on the Vine Whip to make sure that is all freshened up. I was playing Pokemon Clover, which is a goddamn mess. I 100% would not recommend people actually playing that game. I am playing it just, like, for the sheer experience of it. It was put onto my homebrewed 3DS by my brother-in-law when he helped me format my new SD card that I had access to. So, I have it now, so I'm playing it, and, I'll give credit where credit, I think, is due. There's a lot of really well-done Fakemon sprites that I think would just work really well in an actual video game. And, some of the music is funny, and some of the jokes are admittedly not, some of the most horrible, wretched things I've ever seen in my life, given that it is the 4chan ROM hack. That being said, the game definitely holds its title as the 4chan ROM hack for a reason, and I can perfectly respect and understand why the Retro Achievements development team and mod team decided against having any kind of Pokemon Clover set on the website. It is not it is not correct. This game. I completely forgot the point that I was trying to make by mentioning that I was playing Clover. Oh yeah, I was on the SS Anne in my Clover playthrough, or I guess whatever the boat equivalent was, and what wound up happening was I get up to the top deck thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna try and navigate as much of this as possible and not deal with the story until I'm finished navigating, and I get to the top, and there's the story cutscene happens there, and I get tossed off the boat. So it's it's unfortunate. Cleaning down the boat. We got the achievement for that. We're gonna go get a quick heal on. And we're gonna just real quick switch our team around, put Klepto up front, because coming up here, we have our next rival fight with our guy Gary. Thankfully, we've got the higher stats in that round out, so we're able to take care of things rather quickly. I did not mean to do that. Oh my god. Oh my god. That's a load of barnacles. Huh. Alright. That's obnoxious. Okay. This gives me access to the cut HM. Very good. Now, cut is a very interesting HM. It is not the best in terms of damage. I think ROM hacks kind of helped fix cut in a way where it's no longer as kind of unreliable of a move. They've changed the typing either steel or grass typically. But I think I like cut because it allows you to experience your first bit of good old-fashioned JRPG backtracking, where you get to go back and you get to explore areas that you haven't been to in quite some time. Kind of opens up the world in a new way. And it's nice to have the world opened up like that, because, you know, you get to experience more of what you've already been to. You know, you're seeing a place that you've been, but it's new. You know, you're seeing all the stuff that you missed out on. Obviously, what I can do is come through here and use cut on that tree and go on to the next gym. However, what we are going to do is we are going to come on up to this route, and we are going to catch ourselves a Meowth. The reason I'm going to be catching a Meowth instead of teaching cut to one of my Pokemon is that I would rather not use up one of the important move slots on Pokemon I do not intend to use. So in this case, you know, we're going to get our Meowth set up here. And Meowth will now function as the Pokemon we use for cutting things down. We are also going to make our way through the Diglett Tunnel here. The Diglett Tunnel is a very small dungeon. It is nowhere near as big as some of the other dungeons that we experience in the game. It is just one long continuous stretch of tunnel from one end to the other, with only two possible encounters, Diglett and its evolution Dugtrio. Dugtrio is the rare encounter for the area. It typically spawns at a higher level, closer to the 30s, so they are a bit of a challenge to face, typically. But, you know, if your Pokemon are leveled up high enough, which in this case, you know, my Piranha Plant is definitely high enough leveled, it will serve its purpose there. Here we can encounter some guys. This guy wants to trade an Abra for a Mr. Mime, which I will be doing at a later point. And here we have a Professor Oak aid. I've only caught 9 kinds of Pokemon, so I need to catch one more Pokemon in order to get what he has, which thankfully is going to be super easy because we are right here. So we're just going to run into the grass, run around a little bit, and we are going to do a capture. Now, I'm putting the Pokemon to sleep that I'm trying to capture because status effects actually help increase capture rate. This will allow me to do things a little bit more seamlessly when I'm trying to clean up some certain captures here, and this is how I get the HM for Flash, by the way, just so you guys are aware of what I'm doing there. But we are going to need to capture Pokemon here and there for specific purposes. In the case of this game, you know, we're doing this so that way we can make sure we get all of the necessary Pokemon that are available. Dream Ear, we're going to teach to Meowth, because fuck it, we can. And that counts towards an achievement. Alright, so we got that. I don't believe there's anything else that I can get item-wise in town. Right, I can't talk to the girl. Nothing happens if I read the board. Oh, I hit the wrong button again. My bad, my bad. We are not, in fact, gonna go through here. We are going to skip the route completely and come on out the other side, like so. Well, no, not quite like so. Real quick look at the website that I've been using. Go to Route 2. Okay, so it's just those. So I have nothing to worry about here. Just want to make sure that I'm not missing any secret items that I'm going to need for achievement progress. But we are going to come up here. We're going to go into this lab, and we are going to talk to the scientist who will give us the old amber, which is our first instance of, or our second instance, rather, of a Pokemon fossil. I didn't talk about it before. When we were in Mount Moon, we got access to the fossil, the Helix fossil. You get two fossils there, the Helix fossil and the Dome fossil. I'm also just highlighting that, you know, trees will come back when you leave an area and return. But the Helix fossil can be revived into Omanite, and the Dome fossil gets revived into Kabuto. They are both water rock type Pokemon, and they are the first instance that you get to see of a fossil Pokemon in your journey playing through the Pokemon franchise. The only way to get those Pokemon is to go to a specific NPC in the game that you're playing, and they will revive your fossil for you. In the case of Fire Red and Leaf Green, or the Gen 1 titles in general, you go to the Cinnabar Island, and there is going to be someone in the Cinnabar Lab who will happily replenish your Pokemon from its fossilized state into the living world once again. There are exactly 3 fossil Pokemon in the Kanto region. I just told you about Omanite and Kabuto. But there is also Aerodactyl, who comes out of the old Amber that we got. Aerodactyl is a pretty cool Pokemon, in my opinion. I definitely like them quite a fair bit. Let's see. I think our next best bet is to just make our way through this route here and start leveling up our Pokemon. We're also gonna heal real quick. Yeah, we're gonna get some levels on the rest of our team, build them up, make them a bit better. We're also just gonna real quick dump Pidgey into the boxes. We don't want to keep it, but we are gonna keep Meowth here. And the reason for that is I'm going to show off the ability Pickup. Now, Meowth is a Pokemon that comes with this ability. What this does is it allows them to find items after you've gone through battle, and they will then be able to be taken and put into your box. Every generation has a different pickup pool. In the case of Gen 1's pickup pool, well, the Gen 3 pickup pool for Fire Red and Leaf Green, I should very specifically say, you get the examples of this line, being able to pick up any specific thing from the list at any level. Different, generations change things around. Even sometimes the games in the generations themselves change things around. So, like, for instance, Fire Red and Leaf Green has a specific pickup pool that is just a set type of items that can be picked up, and it just entirely depends on random chance what it is you get. In the case of Ruby and Sapphire, it is a level-up based thing. So the Pokemon that you are using that has pickup, depending on what level it is, will determine the pool that it is picking from, and that pool changes every, I believe it's 10 or so levels. Nothing crazy, but it is something to keep in mind. In Emerald, they changed that specific pool, so the pool that you use in Pokemon Emerald is different than the one you use in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. I just completely blanked for a second there. I am so tired. But yeah, that's kind of how things go with this stuff. It's very interesting how pickup works. It has added a unique level of, I would like to say, effort into making sure you can get the items you want. And when it comes to certain challenges, like the Professor Oak challenge, where muddy grinding is very necessary, if not for the Emerald, or the Fire Red and Leaf Green nugget manipulation that you can do, where you can go over and over again on the nugget bridge, and as long as you keep losing, you get a free nugget every single time. It's honestly really interesting how that all cracks out, but I love it. But it helps. It is very, very helpful. Parafusion. Not great. Now, we have a couple classes here that I haven't been able to talk about yet. We've seen our youngsters there, but we also have the Gambler, or the Gamer, as it is referred to in the American localization of these games, but you also have the Electrician. These specialize in different types. The Gamer uses a lot of game of chance situations, so it'll increase its stats. It will mess with things on your side, so that way there's certain percentage odds of things happening one way or another. And then the Electrician focuses mostly on the electric type, so you'll see your Magnemites and your Voltorbs. There is a bit of crossover between certain classes, like the Super Nerd and the Gamer, as well as the Super Nerd and the Electrician. It's very interesting how that kind of cracks out to be. Up here, we get introduced to another Professor Oak aid. I need to capture 30 kinds of Pokemon, so I will be needing to capture more Pokemon as we go. This is also the other trade that I can do, where I can trade a Nidorina for a Nidorino. We also have a Snorlax here. I can't wake that up just yet. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep making my way through here, but we are going to do some good old-fashioned capturing, because there are a handful of Pokemon on this route that we don't have. So I'm just going to, do my thing here, try to capture them as best as possible, and hope that I can fill out my decks just a little bit more, as with every single Pokemon added, I get to come closer to filling out specific achievements. And getting all of Professor Oak's aids items certainly is one of those. I'm going to see, though, if I can... I'm not going to do that. Possibly encounter a Dugtrio in here. That would be really funny. And honestly, just for the sake of having it, I might even take the Diglett into Lieutenant Surge's gym, as Lieutenant Surge is an electric-type specialist, so it could come in handy. I want to secure my health a little bit here. Oh, nice, nice. Very good. Alright, that is one less thing to worry about moving forward. Alright, so I'm actually... First things first. Yeah, okay. We're going to take this Dugtrio just so I have an easier time in Surge's gym. Can't use Dig, not what I'm trying to do. Alright, Surge's gym is going to include some familiar trainer classes, obviously, like the Sailor here. The Sailor is going to exhibit different usages, though. Unlike in usual instances, the Sailor is not going to focus on water types or fighting types. Every one of the trainers in Surge's gym is going to have an electric type. Thankfully, we have the hard type advantage here. The static is a little obnoxious. But yeah, we did that just so we can make sure we get that special achievement. Did I even use it? I did. And we got all the switches. Okay. Good, good, good. Let's just clean this gym up really fast. We don't get static. That's very good. And we have to go and get static. It's right at the end, though. It's at the end. It's fine. Okay, well, I think that was pretty sufficient. We've been streaming for a good bit here, about 2 hours. So I'm going to call it there. Thanks to anyone that popped out to stream today. But I am going to be calling it there, because I got some things to take care of today. But otherwise, you know, I'm looking forward to doing more cleanup on the achievements. In fact, let me see just how many achievements we earned today, because we did earn quite a few new ones. So I've got 17 whole achievements today that have put me almost at the 5,000 retro points mark, which is pretty cool. My site rank has dropped back down to the 19,000s, so that's also pretty cool to me. But yeah, I will be coming back maybe tomorrow to stream, if not Friday. So I will keep you guys all filled in, but thanks for popping out. Have a wonderful rest of your day.